Last night, the Minnesota Timberwolves defeated the Golden State Warriors to advance to the Western Conference Finals for the second year in a row and the third time in franchise history. So, this is now the greatest era of Timberwolves basketball ever, which is pretty incredible when you think of that achievement by Anthony Edwards and this current incarnation of the Timberwolves, that they've had more success in these last 4 years than Kevin Garnett had in Minnesota in I'm trying to think how many years he played there. In the 13 years he played there, actually 12 years he played from 95 to 2007. So think about it. In 4 years, they've had more success than Kevin Garnett had in 12 years, which is pretty ridiculous and funny. And if you think about it, really after 2004, the Timberwolves sucked with Kevin Garnett. They missed the playoffs like 3 straight years in a row, and then he got traded to Boston, and he went from there. So they were really pretty much doing nothing after '04, and then they had that brief minute where they had Andrew Wiggins, Cat, and Jimmy Butler, where they made the playoffs, I think, once, and then they missed the playoffs for a few years, and they got Anthony Edwards, and now they're on this ridiculous run. So with that being said, I thought deeply last night about this. Did Anthony Edwards pass Kevin Garnett as the greatest Minnesota Timberwolf of all time? And I think it's pretty close now. When you look at just the impact Anthony Edwards had compared to Kevin Garnett, will I say Kevin Garnett was a superior defender to Anthony Edwards? Yes, Kevin Garnett was an elite defensive player. I have to give him that. But I would say Anthony Edwards is no slouch on defense. He's not a great all-time defender like Kevin Garnett was, but I would say Anthony Edwards is now above average to a good defensive player. Maybe he can become a great defensive player, but he's already pretty good. So that's what he has going for himself. Now, where I think Anthony Edwards separates himself from Kevin Garnett is that he is a superior scorer than Kevin Garnett. He's just a better scorer. If you think about it, even in these playoffs, Anthony Edwards has had more 40-point games than Kevin Garnett ever had during his playoff career, which is pretty interesting because Kevin Garnett never scored 40 or more during the playoffs. But Anthony Edwards has scored five times already in his playoff career, 40 or more points in a playoff game. He did it once this year and a few times last year and the year before. He's already had multiple 30-point games. I think he might have had more 30-point games than Kevin Garnett has had during his whole entire playoff career, or equivalent to that. I'm just counting how many playoff games Garnett had with 30 points. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So Garnett's had 9 playoff games with 30-point performances or more. And Anthony Edwards, we're just talking about 30-point games, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Anthony Edwards has had 8 30-point playoff games, and then he's had 5 40-point playoff games. So he's already dominated the playoffs more than Kevin Garnett ever did. And he's only been in the league for 4 or 5 years. And he's already had more dominant scoring games than Kevin Garnett. So he's already a superior scorer. And then you look at their regular season averages, and Anthony Edwards is a superior scorer in that category too. His highest scoring season is greater than Kevin Garnett's highest scoring season. And then you look at his playoff scoring averages throughout the years, it's higher than Kevin Garnett's scoring averages ever were. So that is pretty insane that he's already a dominant scorer compared to what Kevin Garnett was when Kevin Garnett was playing. And I would say the other thing that sticks out to me about Anthony Edwards is that he just has this it factor that I felt Kevin Garnett never had in these big games, that he steps up. He's been having these amazing games when his team really needs him to come through. He can take over the game and just dominate from that point forward. Or when his team needs scoring and they're on a scoring drought, he will answer with a timely shot. Like, he knows how to stop the bleeding. These are things I felt Kevin Garnett, despite being a great player, could never do. He could never just dominate a game when it really mattered, to take it over when his team really needed it the most. It didn't happen that often, especially in the playoffs. I always felt that's what separated Tim Duncan from Kevin Garnett, is that Duncan could dominate games when necessary and would take it over when necessary, when he felt his team just needed him to rise to the occasion. I never felt Kevin Garnett had that ability to do that. He just never did. But Anthony Edwards has already shown that in his young career, that he can rise to the occasion when needed. He can come through. Granted, he's had some games where he's played terrible, but he has a lot of games where he has rose to the occasion. And I just chalk the games where he's played poorly as just being young and just need to get better at being consistent. But he's shown that he can do it, whereas Kevin Garnett was never really able to do those things. So I give that to Anthony Edwards. Now I think the only thing that Kevin Garnett has on Anthony Edwards now is his longevity. Because of his longevity, he has more All-NBA team appearances than Anthony Edwards. He has more NBA All-Star Game appearances. So he has that on him. But I think if Anthony Edwards remains healthy, that he will close the longevity gap in the next several years. He will start collecting all these accolades, and it will match what Garnett did. If he stays healthy, I definitely believe so. Garnett also has an MVP award over Anthony Edwards. So he has that, but I think Anthony Edwards, like I said, if he remains healthy in the next several years, he definitely will be in the running to win at least one MVP award. I could definitely see it. He's still really young. He's only 23 years old. He'll turn 24 in the next few months. So, yeah, I could see the next 5-6 years him winning at least one league MVP if he's motivated. So I think he'll match him. So when I think about it, Kevin Garnett may edge him out right now due to longevity, but to me it's pretty close. I know it sounds crazy, but I think Anthony Edwards has passed him. In my mind, I would put him ahead of Kevin Garnett as the greatest Timberwolf of all time. And if he somehow is able to win the Western Conference Finals, I think then for sure you got to put him ahead of Garnett, because he would have gotten Minnesota to the NBA Finals. And that would be legendary. First finals appearance ever. If he does that, I think for sure he's going to pass Kevin Garnett. In my mind, I give him the edge. I put him ahead of Kevin Garnett now as greatest Timberwolf of all time. People may say I'm crazy, but I've just seen enough these last 2 years to make that decision now with his team going to the conference finals. I know some people will say, like, well, it was a fluke. He got lucky in the sense that he played a Warriors team without Curry and whatnot. Okay, sure, you can make that argument, but him being the Lakers, that was legit. They were at full strength, and he just took them out. He had that decisive game 4 where I think he dropped 45 points on them. That was a huge game, and he was able to get his team a must-needed win. That's a type of game where I never saw Kevin Garnett rise to those moments when he had to win a game like that in a series where his team was an underdog. He was in plenty of situations like that when he was with the Timberwolves during the late 90s and early 2000s that he couldn't win that pivotal game in these first-round series to pull off the upset. But Anthony Edwards was able to do that. He put his head down and said, like, well, I'm just going to take over this game. We're not going to lose this game. I'm going to get this game. And he did it. Kevin Garnett just never had that ability. There were some series where I felt if he could have just stolen one game, just playing out of his ass, going on God mode, then, the Timberwolves would have been able to pull the upset. So you got to give him credit for that. He's already gotten out of the first round more than once, which is something Garnett couldn't do in Minnesota. That to me is no fluke. He played the Lakers at full strength this year, and then last year I believe he played the Suns at full strength. So you gotta give him credit for that. It is legit. And now that he's gotten out of the first round a few times and gotten to the conference finals like 2 times now, he's gonna have supreme confidence going from this point forward that it wouldn't surprise me to see the Timberwolves getting out of the first round consistently the next several years, because experience is the biggest thing. Once you get that experience, you have that confidence. Doing something for the first time for anybody, I think it's the hardest thing. But once you're able to do this thing more than once, then you just have supreme confidence, and it pretty much lasts forever. So he's gonna have that going for him. And I think the Wolves will be a thorn for a lot of teams for a long time in the Western Conference due to his youth, his experience, and their depth. They have a lot of depth now. And I think that's where the cat trade has actually paid off for them. I thought that it was a bad trade, but it looks like it's a trade where both teams have broken even. If you think about it, that they have a depth that very few teams can match up with. Granted, I do think most likely that they'll probably lose to whoever wins the Nuggets the Nuggets OKC series, but it wouldn't surprise me if they pulled off the upset. It's very possible. So yeah, I put Anthony Edwards over Kevin Garnett, and when it comes to being the greatest Wolf of all time. So that's what I have to say.